11, 1975, which he titled, Africa Has Come of Age. That speech mobilized the continent to fight to end apartheid, and we are all beneficiaries of that situation. President Jonathan's speech has the same inspirational appeal, and I think that it will also help us to make policies that will also emancipate and free Nigeria. I also note that he has listed some items. Delta State Delegation, we recognize those items. Our own memorandum, we give the details because we see ourselves as a victim of some of the laws and legislations, particularly regarding the reckless plunder of our own resources in the past 40 years and the diversion of the wealth of our people to develop other parts of the country. This conference will help us to end that economic apartheid and give our people the freedom to call themselves Nigerians. The second part I want to observe has to do with the question of the difficulty that this conference might face at the end of the deliberations, having come out with very patriotic recommendations. We are going to face obstacles about implementation. There are institutions in Nigeria that are going to fight us. I urge that we be resolute and we find the president to be our friend in trying to implement the radical and revolutionary recommendations that will come from this conference. Allied to this is the question of corruption that has been mentioned. We cannot deal with that in totality in this conference, but it is the economic situation that generates that corruption. We are running a primitive capitalist system. It used to be the case that people would work to make their money, but now you can have subsidy billionaires and you can have short-paid billionaires. The country must move beyond condemning this by establishing an ethical standard for all public officers and for private people. If you indicate the number of buildings or amount of money people must own, whoever crosses that path will be punished by Nigeria. If you don't do that, you grumble, our grumbles will be in vain. I end by urging the president to go beyond this conference. Some of the things he can do not require this conference. They are a matter of policy change. And there are two areas that we recommend. One is in the field of education. This country must provide for total literacy of all its citizens. Without it, you cannot move in the direction of Vision 2020. All the countries in that league, the least educated has 97% literacy rate. Nigeria will have 50%. 10.5 million children out of school age, President Jonathan must put them in school. He must expand their majority beyond that. Finally, the president must take Nigeria and free Nigeria from the witchcraft of the World Bank, and the government must support industrialization to create jobs for people. Education and industrialization are the only miracles that transform society. That SAP project must be rejected. If there's anybody in the cabinet of the man who opposes this policy, President Jonathan should sack that minister and free Nigeria for development and progress. Thank you very much.
Brief remarks. I want to join others to thank Mr. President for convoking this national conference and for delivering a very well-written and well-delivered speech. Mr. Chairman, in the course of the last few days, various delegates had asked the question, where and how did we derail? They spoke glowingly about the period between 1954 and 1966, when, according to them, unemployment was minimal, there was enough food, agriculture prospered, industries grew, and Nigerians were respected universally. They've been asking, what went wrong and how, when? Mr. Chairman, let me attempt to answer that question, at least in part. I submit, sir, that the first thing we did was that we murdered regional government. It was the regional government that were doing the things we are celebrating, that they had enough responsibility and resources to build roads and schools, And in the Western region, Chief Obafemi Awolowo introduced the first television service in the whole of Africa because he had the resources. He introduced minimum wage of 5 shillings a day and built the first modern stadium, etc., etc. Other regions are doing similar things in the eastern region and the northern region because that the regional government was big enough, had enough support to do those things. Now we murdered under the military regional government. So if the goose that lays the golden has been killed, how can you get the golden eggs anymore? Number 2, sir, we also, under the military, destroyed parliamentary form of government. The military was well-intentioned. They thought presidential government will bring the nation together. But what has happened? Parliamentary presidential government vests authority in one person, either as governor or president. And that person has the power to appropriate the treasury of the government over which he presides. But parliamentary vests authority in the collective, the cabinet. Is collegiate, is more inclusive. It's more amenable to discipline and control. So the disappearance of regional government and parliamentary form of government together, along with other factors, explain, in my view, the disaster we describe and bewail today. Mr. Chairman, the land use reform is absolutely essential because it is one way we can empower the masses. Most rural people have nothing but their land. If they can be given title to their land, it becomes capital for them. It's a means of rural empowerment. Number 3, Mr. Chairman. Some people have been saying that we are nominated delegates, so therefore we don't have any powers. Mr. Chairman, I want to submit that most delegates in the past were nominated, including the delegates to the 1957 and 1958 London Constitutional Conferences. I have the list of all the delegates with me. 9 political parties went to that conference. And the leaders of the various parties nominated their colleagues to go with them. They were not elected. And yet the constitution they made was the one that guided us into independence. It is the one we are celebrating today as perhaps the only constitution that was made by our own leaders. So they were nominated. We are nominated. This is no disability. Mr. Chairman, so people talk about corruption. And the destruction of the civil service by the purge and the abandonment of economic planning have combined to worsen corruption. When you have a plan, you have so many projects to which you are committed for 5-10 years. You don't even have enough money to implement your project. Today, I don't know what I advise the government. We have abandoned planning, so every naira looks like a surplus. So the minister then, what do I do with this surplus money? Part of the answer must be steal. You steal it. Mr. Chairman, I want to say that this nation must move by consensus. One-sided deals never survive. At the end of the First World War, the Allied forces imposed the Treaty of Versailles on Germany and were extracting reparation from the defeated country. What happened? Hitler used that one-sided treaty to whip up German sentiment and start the Second World War. And what happened? 70 million Europeans died in the Second World War, thanks to a one-sided agreement. So in our dealings together, we must refrain from any one-sided or unfair arrangement. We must move by consensus at all times. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Femi Falana, SAN.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished delegates, when the progressive extraction of the civil society began the campaign for a sovereign national conference in 1989, the Ibrahim Babangida junta said that it was treason. But we kept on the campaign. Today we have a national conference, not the sovereign one, but the JNC, the Jonathan National Conference, JNC, provides a window of opportunity for us to find out why the majority of our people from all parts of the country are poor in the midst of plenty. Why life has become so unbearable for the majority of our people, while a tiny microscopic minority of the rich are smiling to the banks on a daily basis. Mr. Chairman, the area that interests me in the president's speech is this business of the indissolubility of Nigeria, indivisibility of Nigeria. And I've heard it here. The ruling class boasts that Nigeria cannot break. Please, let us be very careful when we boast. The country is collapsing. Many of those who contributed to the collapse, with profound respect, are here. We must be honest and be remorseful when we are making contributions here. People should give testimony here. And mere maxima culpa, they must tell us that it is their greatest fault why we are in a mess. Sirs, there are two sets of agents of destabilization in Nigeria. There are two forces of destabilization. As we are gathered here, disenchanted youths are challenging the corporate existence of Nigeria, either as armed robbers, kidnappers, or terrorists. They have taken up arms against the Nigerian state. So why are we deceiving ourselves? The second group, more dangerous, are members of the ruling class that engage in unprecedented corruption, capital flight, impunity, to the extent that they have endangered the corporate existence of Nigeria. That group, I think according to the late fella, Anikula Pukut, engaged in pen robbery, which is worse than armed robbery, because it's the first one that leads to armed robbery. Therefore, when we want a new Nigeria, please, let us be honest to advise Mr. President, while we are praising him, that he still has over a year to turn the country around. The president has a duty. Nigerians have voted for him to put Nigeria in the right place.
Moved by page 6 of Mr. President's speech, and I read. The most compelling task before us as we move ahead and contemplate what our nation will be at the end of this second century is to lay a much stronger foundation for faster development by building a more inclusive, underline here, inclusive national consensus on the structure and guiding principles of state that will guarantee our emergence as a more united, progressive, and prosperous nation. Mr. Chairman, I want to say that we have listened to numerous lamentation of our country. We are running a federal system, and yet we do not observe the tenets of federalism. I don't know whether we are running unitary at the center and federal at the lower level. We have a structure that is not equitable. We have an unfair system. But I want to say that at the root of all this problem is the Nigerian person. I believe that if we had operated this current constitution with the mind of our forefathers, we wouldn't have been at the stage we are today. And if we get the best of constitution tomorrow and have the same set of Nigerians operate it, I want to believe that we're not going to make any progress. The issue is with us. The issue is with leadership. The issue is with the elites, both civilian and military, present and past. Mr. Chairman, you will now start to wonder why we have been having budgets, both at the federal and state level for this number of years. But look at our country, look at the masses. We are not where we're supposed to be. Millions are spent every year. We only hear the figures. Not that state government has not been trying, but not commensurate with the amount of money that is budgeted every year. We have no provision for our masses. We have no provision for the unemployed. We have no provision for the aged. We have no provision for the disabled. We consider ourselves only. Otherwise, why should government make laws that political appointees will earn more than people who are in the academia? Why should government make laws through the, the National Assembly or even the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission for a person six holder who is a councillor in a local government to earn more than a graduate, more than a professor? We consider ourselves. Now we're talking about resource control. Some people are saying they want more money. The resources is from our place. And others are saying, remember us, we are part of this country. But in all these situations, go to the villager in any of these states. The money does not go down. This is the conspiracy of the elite. We consider ourselves until Nigerians start thinking of the common man. Until Nigerians start thinking that others are human beings. They have right to these resources. We are not making any progress. So, Mr. Chairman, I was a governor for 8 years. I want to say that even as a governor, nobody living in my state pays school fees. You are all from Nigeria, from different states. You can bear me witness that your own people in my state for 8 years never paid school fees. They never paid hospital bills. I made sure that what is due for a budget person is due for every other Nigerian, because I believe they are part and parcel of our country. And I did challenge my governors, my colleagues that time. If you feel you are a Nigerian, why don't you do what I was doing in Ebonyi State? Come to an issue of security. Ebonyi State used to be a center in the whole of the Southeast, where non-Muslims at the issues of crisis will assemble because they are sure of their safety. I then challenged the governor of Kano State, Shekerau there. I told Shekerau that as the chief security officer, he has the responsibility to protect lives and property of his people, including the Igbos in the state. I want to believe, Mr. Chairman, that we are not yet sincere with ourselves. We need national reconciliation. We need repentance. We need reconciliation. We need forgiveness of ourselves. And for me, if we are going to make progress and stop, and let it not be a talk shop, can we agree that for at least a week, we'll lock ourselves together, both Christians and Muslims, have 1 week of prayer and fasting to forgive ourselves? Otherwise, we shall go out and continue to do what we have been doing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. We have heard Dr. Sam Egwu. We shall now have Professor Sam Egwu.
Thank you, Chairman and delegates. My name is Samuel Egwu. I'm a delegate from Kogi State. Yes, that is part of the Nigerian story. Mr. Chairman, I am a professor of political economy and development studies. And I came to this conference from the United Nations Development Program as governance advisor. Mr. Chairman, I've read the speech over and over. And I think there are two conclusions that I have drawn. I'm not going to search for adjectives to describe the speech. One of them, in my opinion, Mr. Chairman, is that the president has captured the travails of this country since independence by drawing attention to two areas that we have failed. One of them is nation building, and the other is development. Mr. Chairman, the second conclusion I draw from the speech is that the president did not just say that Nigeria's unity should not be discussed. He also said, indirectly, that we shouldn't take this unity for granted. And therefore, we must, as a mandate,
build firewalls to protect this unity. These are the two conclusions I have drawn. Mr. Chairman, let me speak about two issues. If I have time, I will go to others. The first one is about the whole idea of nationhood. I am not surprised, and I don't get bothered, that we have Arewa, ACF, we have Afenifere, we have Eze Indigo, all saying different things. These things shouldn't be surprising. A nation everywhere and anywhere is an imagined community. It's an imagined community. There will be differences. And these differences are not billiard ball categories. Instead, they should become the building blocks of unity. What makes the idea of a nation real, sir, is the core values around which different ethnicities, religions, and so on come around. And these are values of governance, values of equity, values of fair play. And we must be able to produce these core values around which every Nigerian, regardless of your ethnicity, religion, and region, will have to rally around. So that unity really is not about how to obliterate differences. It's about these core values.
So I said, let me laugh. And when I laughed, they still take the photograph of when I was laughing. Now, Mr. Chairman, a country is not defined by its geographical borders. A country is defined by the quality, the character, and the content of its inhabitants. Nigeria is not working because Nigerians are not working. In this hall, we have creme de la creme of Nigerians. If yesterday's men of power are complaining today, when they had that power, what did they do with it? We have senators here. Did they pass any law that guarantee employment? We have inspector generals of police here. What did they do to empower the police that the ordinary policeman will have dignity? Once there is no individual dignity, there can be no national dignity. We must ask ourselves this. It's not just for us to come and cry. I had to look back when I heard Governor Egwu speaking. The first thing I had to ask myself was, who was that? Is he an activist? But he was a governor yesterday. He was a minister of education yesterday. The universities were shut down. And this former minister, where the university was shut down, he was having a lavish party that was shown on network television in this country. And I, as a TUC president, I wrote a letter calling for his sack. We are very busy quoting life in America and life in Britain. We quote their leaders. But we need to act like their leaders. It's not just for us to talk the talk. We have to walk the talk. It's not for us to come here. The indices of a failing country is where its elite are busy talking about religion. Religion is your private business. Religion is nobody's business. I don't care who is president of Nigeria. I don't care who is my governor. Create employment for me. Put food on the table. That is what I'm looking for. Create education. Health care. Give us the right to live. Give the youth the right to achieve their dream. That is what they are asking for. They are not asking for handout. They are not asking for handout. We must tell ourselves the truth. Whether you come, we say we want to have resource control. Yes, we can look at it. But resource control can also not happen in a vacuum. We must be able to look at the country holistically and know that even if we fight today, our goal is that tomorrow we become brothers. Our goal is that tomorrow we can hug ourselves.
Dokpesi, High Chief, Dr. Alauge Raymond.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please.
distinguished delegates, all protocols duly observed, please permit me to join all my other colleagues.
Your names and constituency, please.
My name is Raymond Alogo Dokwesi. I represent the media, broadcasting organizations of Nigeria, the only organ that was provided for in Section 22 of the 1999 Constitution to hold the government accountable to the people of Nigeria.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I want to join all others in commending Mr. President for a very articulate, clear-headed, sure-footed presentation of the speech he delivered at the inauguration last Monday, 17th of March 2014. Mr. President clearly indicated as a nationalist, as a patriot, the challenges that he observes as president of this country that we have continuously faced. And these